Hello everyone. Today we're going to be talking about utilizing multiple data sources in Spotfire, whether this would be for multiple sheets in Excel or other flat files, multiple data tables within different servers or the same server, or just a combination of all of the above. So there's two ways to do that within Spotfire. The first method is using what we would call data relationships, which is very useful in a one-to-many relationship. And the other one is actually being able to do a physical join. The main difference between these two is in a data relationship, the data sources would be kept separate. Therefore, you would not be able to put columns from each table within the same visual. However, within a join, you would be able to do that because it would be combined to create one single source. So what I'm going to do here is in this sample example, I have my production data for an oil and gas well or set of wells. What I'm going to do on top of that is take some data that is my monthly production and relate that. So of course within a certain year or time frame there's going to be multiple months within that. Therefore this would be a good example for that many to one relationship. What I'm going to go ahead and do is click Add Data Tables. We're going to go and select a file. And we're going to bring up our monthly data, which we can see here. I'll click OK. Click OK again. And notice when I do the adding, you can see there's many different things, such as my data source connections I've already made within the tool. So the next thing I want to point out is before we click OK here, we want to be able to manage the relations to create that data relationship. I'm going to click New, and we're going to see the right and left table already created for us with a column that is going to be matched on. You can match on multiple columns if your data columns are not uniquely identified by one single column. So if I were to do that, I could click OK and add additional ones here. In this case, it's one column needed to create the relationship. I'll click OK and click OK. And now, the advantage here is if I wanted to drill down into 3 wells and see their monthly data, I could right-click, create detailed visualization, and notice it's going to prompt me which table now that they're related. I'll do my monthly data, and in this case we're just going to do this by year and month. And you can start to see that information there, and if I really wanted to, I could break those down by each individual well. So now I can actually compare each one and see how that particular analysis's production is going as time moves on. So the last thing I'll mention, if you want to ever edit your data relationships, you just need to go to the data table properties and click on the relations tab. So you can manage the relations then again there, so you don't have to do it only on initially entering the data sources. With that, we'll switch over to how to do a join. In this second example, I'm going to bring out my sales data to do a join. What I'm trying to do is figure out how my sales over time are performing in each of my different regions. However, the dates I'm looking for are not in this particular data set. So what I'm going to do is instead go to Insert Columns. Before I do that, I like to point out if you have a newer data set held in a different Excel file, so let's say you create an Excel file for each month or a data table for each month with the same columns, you would do insert rows instead, but this is not going to be covered in this video. So I'll click columns. We're going to select the file, which this time will be sales data. We're going to get our unjoined data set here, and we're going to go through the columns. So we'll click Next, we're going to automatically match which ones, or you can individually match by clicking them. We only have one to match by. You can also do multiple columns to match here if that is necessary for your particular data set. I'm going to go to next. It's going to ask which columns do you want. I'm just going to take all of them. And it's going to ask the join method. Typically I do a left outer because that's the default and that's really all that's necessary, but if you have a more specific need for joins, then you can change that. I'm going to click finish, and you're going to notice when I hit that finish button, you now have all those extra columns, and I can actually take that new column and use it within my particular sales information as if it was one individual table. And now I actually have something that I can work with. So this is all we're going to cover today as far as working with multiple data sources. The one last thing I'll mention before we end this is if you ever want to see how that's all mapped together, you can just click on your gear button as of 7.5. Go to the data table view, view the source, and it'll actually show you the source of all that data. As of 7.11, you're actually allowed to go in and edit these data sources and aggregations in the source view.